Hello everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video we're going to be going over the live letter from European Fan Festival. Now, for those of you who may not have watched the other fan festivals or the other live letters from them, what's pretty standard about these live letters is a Q&A from the crowd and then some general announcements regarding upcoming content. So it's not a place where you'll get really new expansion information, and you'll really only get new patch information if there's like a major new patch coming. Obviously we have 3.55 and 3.56 coming, so they started with the Q&A and then they moved into the details on 3.55 and 3.56, as well as a few fun little things here at the end. So they're not going to get any mind-blowing information out of this live letter. I'm just letting you know right now that's kind of the expectation we all have when it comes to these things, especially right after expansion reveals. So I've got all the Q&A written down right here. So the first question: are there more character creation customization options planned for the expansion, and how hard are those to implement in general? They said they currently don't have any options planned, which to some degree makes sense because they add new hairstyles and stuff into the game for later, whereas character customization is like Fantasia almost a sense. So I guess it kind of makes sense, but the big problem is that it's a large burden on the graphics teams because it creates a lot of data that has to go back and forth, new packets being generated, and it can cause stress on the servers. As for the butt slider, which somebody also asked about with this question, they said if people don't mind the textures on gear being kind of stretched because making the gear fit properly around all the different curvatures may not look very good, they could do it because it'd probably be too difficult to adjust all the armor around the bigger butts. There is a super large demand for it though, so they'll talk to the graphics programmer, see what's possible, and then come back to us with an answer at a later date. 2. Will there be an increase in the number of outdoor furnishing slots? The answer to that is currently they're just focusing on the indoor furnishing, then they're going to focus on the moving system, and then they're going to look for a solution on outdoor slots. The biggest problem being that everyone can see outdoor slots. So if they increase it by 50, everybody in the region gets plus 50, so the amount of data again being transferred there is a whole hell of a lot. So they are concerned about again, memory issues or too much data being sent back and forth with the server. So they're going to look for a solution, but it's not on their immediate to-do list. Question 3: are there any plans to improve controlling pets? Yoshi P straight up said, "You're the master, you control your pet." He literally just, that was the end of the answer. Like, I thought he was gonna like elaborate more, and apparently so did Ben, because Ben's like, yeah, oh, okay, next question. Question number 4: would we ever get Theatrhythm in the gold saucer? So Yoshi P laughed at that because people just ask him that question like, oh yeah, can you just add that? Yeah, can you just add that? He's just like, so you think it's that easy, huh? Well, they said they could do it, but obviously one of the big problems with sticking all that Final Fantasy music in there, I know it's Final Fantasy XIV, but there's all these different music producers and composers and other people who are involved in creating these things. And it's the same reason why we haven't had Final Fantasy music in general in Final Fantasy XIV. There's a lot of issues within that. So he was thinking maybe if people are willing to buy coins from the Mog Station and put them in like the arcade machines. He was kind of joking around though. He said, in all reality, joking around aside about the whole coins thing, that if they could get permission from the producer of Theatrhythm, maybe, but you know, they'll see what they can do. And let's see, moving on to the next question. I was about to treat it like I do YouTube videos where I make a cut and then I go on to the next one, but we're just going to continue on. Question 5: any plans to remove the restrictions on haircuts, specifically involving racial restrictions on haircuts? They also asked about the hempen underwear, being able to wear something over your underwear but still have your underwear be visible, which is actually apparently like a 40-page thread on the official forum, so Jesus. Some hairstyles they want to keep race specific as part of lore and race identity. However, others they're going to unlock on other races eventually. As for separating a layer of clothing for the hempen thing, it's currently not possible to do. They'd have to develop an entirely new system to do it. One way to do that is to create a new equipment ID for underwear so that it can be worn at the same time as armor, as opposed to when you wear armor, it straight up replaces the underwear you're wearing under it. So they could do that so both could be shown at the same time, but it's just more of a projection of what's possible and not what they're currently working on. Next question, 6. Will it ever be possible to repeat solo instance trials from the main story or job quests? So this is where Yoshi P turned into the biggest troll imaginable. So when he said controlling the pet thing, it was funny. This he goes, oh, Okay, nice idea. Make a new character. He said that word for word. It was fucking hilarious. He said in actuality, originally when he was talking about it, he was like, well, that's kind of hard because those instances are tied to quest markers. So they'd have to find or build a new means of accessing those. But then he thought about it and he realized that they actually are their own instances, their own trials. So if they could create a list of the completed instances, then they might be able to add something like that. It would take some time and it would take a lot of debugging, but upon thinking about it, it seemed a lot more possible to him to achieve. So potentially they might be able to do it in the future. Question number 7. The difficulty of the game has declined after Gordius Savage. Extreme Primals and dungeons are all much easier than 2.x. Now, specifically, they said that the game has gotten easier and then just said Extreme Primals. I'd like to point out that Gordius Savage was harder, and then it was, even Midas Savage was still harder. It's really only 3.4 where people have really gotten into that because Midas and Gordius Savage were such roadblocks. Are there any plans to incorporate more content that has a higher difficulty? So once again, Yoshi P was like, I hate all of you. It's what his expression was. He's like, man, I remember when people said Final Coil was too easy. And so we're like, all right, well, we're going to make Alexander really hard. So then they made Alexander, and then people complained it was too difficult. So, he said he trusts no one. he says all of you, I don't trust any of you. He said content difficulty, something they talk about pretty consistently. They got a lot of feedback that the creator was a lot easier than the first 2 tiers, but they are under the belief that the creator is the perfect difficulty for the entirety of the game, because the people who want to clear it super fast are capable of clearing it super fast, and then it's accessible, or at least a goal within reach to a much wider variety of players, which is, you want to create content that's not just for the 1%, you want it to be appealing to quite a few number of players, which is understandable. So that being said, for Omega, they want to make sure that while Omega has the same level of accessibility, the current plan, or there's at least talks about it within the development team, is that people who clear the final Savage fight in Omega can access even harder content. He just said don't whine about it if it's too hard. We heard about this back at the North American Fan Festival. They were considering adding a 3rd difficulty tier, a super difficult tier in the odd numbered patches, strictly for difficulty, similar to what they did for the Second Coil Savage. We don't know about the reward structure for that, if there even is one, but there's very little details about it. It seems to just be an idea that's up in the air, so we'll actually see what comes later down the line. But it's an idea that they have, at least in some degree. Let's see. Question number 8. When will we get Kryle's outfit on the Mog Station? Specifically on the Mog Station, because we can't have things being put in game nowadays. And he asked, do people want that? He says, well, the person who runs the Mog Station says Kryle's outfit in particular is super difficult, so they need to sell a lot of them for it to be worth implementing. So if you all buy it, then they'll make it. So are you going to buy it? If you buy it, he'll make it. Do you promise to buy it right now? If you do, he will make it. That's it. All right. Question number 9. Will future Hildebrand quests once again feature trials? Well, back in 2.x, they said they went a bit overboard on some of his quests. So for 3.x, they didn't even want to do any Hildebrand quests. But once again, everybody said, hey, no, do more Hildebrand quests. Those were great. So then they got it. So they did more 3.x Hildebrand quests. So then for 4.x, they were like, okay, now for 4.x, we want to take a break. But once again, people said, no, you got to bring back more Hildebrand. So you'll see more Hildebrand quests coming. There you go. Question number 10. Can we have an in-game parser to show personal DPS built into the game so that even PS4 players could use it? So Yoshi P got up and left at this point, or he tried to, and Koji was like, stay. Hey, no, come back, stay, come on. Okay, he 100% understands you only want to see your own DPS. He understands you don't need to see other people's DPS, you just want to see your own. But then other people demand that people link their DPS, and then there's going to be fights. He also knows that there's already third-party software that people create, and they know that if they put this tool into the game, that people who create this third-party content would just use it to improve the third-party tools, and then everyone's still seeing everyone's DPS anyway. So basically, people who want to see people's DPS are already seeing it if they're playing on PC. So it's kind of almost like it's already there, kind of, it's just not for personal reasons, and we don't want to give people more tools to access our information. It really seems like that's the bigger secret prerogative here, where they don't want people having another tool that they can dig up into the game files in order to retrieve information and do any sort of hacking. I'd imagine they're pretty afraid of tying in-game the damage numbers that are outputting from a player into something that reads those and displays them, and afraid of somebody working backwards and getting into the actual damage calculations that lead to the outputs. We've already seen issues like that in other abilities where people have been able to manipulate movement speed, they've been able to manipulate spell speed, and who's to say that that's not true here? So I can understand it if they had put it like that, but here it's just, once again, it seems to be once again that just, we don't want people to yell at each other. Oh yeah, but also we know people would retool it, was the exact words that they used, retool. Currently they have no plans, but that's not to say they won't do it ever. One of the big reasons they don't want to do it right now is because 3.x has issues with player skill gap, and the amount of DPS from someone who does very low DPS to someone who does very good DPS is extremely expanded since 2.x. The gap is a lot wider. So in 4.x they want to balance things out a little bit better, bring the gap a little bit closer, and then maybe if it's okay, they'll see what they can do a little bit later. They are implementing something else in order to test player skill, however. What's it called? They said that, so they were very vague. They were like, it allows you to attempt a certain something and then retry it if you don't do it right. They said they don't think anything like it's ever been done in an MMO. To me, it sounds like, a fighting game like Street Fighter, the combo training system where it tries to get you to do a combo and it shows your button combinations on the screen. So maybe something like that, but they were completely vague, so we're just in speculation territory at this point. Question 11, are you working on a PS4 Pro patch? They went over this in the press conference from the night before. Yes, we are. It's a bit different than single-player games, so for us the focus is displaying as many things on screen simultaneously as possible. That's where they'd focus their effort, and they've already got a working prototype for the Pro patch. So don't worry, normal PS4 users, they promise they're not going to forget you, but they are working on a Pro patch to allow for a more consistent experience. Question number 12, can we choose to keep flowers in garden pots as opposed to harvesting them? They're so pretty in the pots. They actually said, yeah, that's actually already coming on one of the soon-to-come patches, either 3.55 or 3.56 or something. It's coming on one of them. Question number 13, would you ever consider adding umbrellas to the game as vanity items, such as minions? So apparently the person who runs the Mog Station we mentioned earlier already has plans for this as well, but they don't want to just make it an umbrella you carry because there's a lot of data. It's really difficult to create a character ID so you can hold this umbrella up. So instead what they want to do is make it a mount, where when you're on the ground you're just holding an umbrella and you're running a lot faster, but when you're flying it's like Mary Poppins, where it's pulling you in the direction that you're trying to fly. So you may see that sometime in the near future. Question 14, are we ever going to get Palace of the Dead in the crossover party finder? These were the last two questions, by the way, and they were both from the same person. They already told us a while ago they were working on Palace of the Dead in the crossover party finder, but they didn't know when they would have it ready, so they're working on it. We knew that already. They also said that one thing that will be coming before that is the ability to make alliances on the cross-server party finder. So please look forward to that, hopefully by Return to Ivalice. And that same person asked the second question, can we ever send a /tell to someone in the cross-server party finder? So they're working on a bunch of cross-server functions right now. They obviously have the blacklist working now. They're working on the cross-server friends list, which is the top priority they have right now. They're also working on the ability to send tells, create link shells, and create free companies all cross-server. Currently, it looks like /tells will be available before link shells and free companies, probably because if you have a friends list that's cross-server, you should probably be able to send tells cross-server as well. Kind of makes sense, and, just kind of makes sense. But yeah, all those kind of cross-server functionality things are on their way. Now, that was it for the Q&A section. Mostly glamour-related stuff, not terrible. I still think even these glamour-related questions are somewhat better than the ones that were at NA and EU, or at least from memory. But I think NA had the best Q&A section in general. So then they have announcements for patch 3.55. So for those who didn't know, 3.55 is being dropped into 3.55a and 3.55b. Anima Weapon story quests, they did confirm. I know it says the Anima Weapon is done. However, there is one more quest. It's going to be a super easy victory lap style quest, but there's one final anima quest for us to do in patch 3.55. Zloia Leopo, which we thought was originally slated for a regular 3.5, will be joining in 3.55a. For those who don't remember, that's new content for gatherers and crafters, where they can build reputation with Zloia as well as other NPCs by delivering certain items to them and learning more about their individual stories. Eventually, they'd like to make it so that when you create something for an NPC, they may actually wear it. That's something that's still later to come, though, so we'll see how it actually ends up working out. The Proto Ultima battle from the fan festivals is going to be hitting the live servers, although they don't want to spoil anything story related about it, so they didn't want to say where we're fighting him, even though we know where we've seen Proto Ultima. We'll see what that actually ends up meaning when it actually comes out. They don't even want to spoil it in the patch notes. So that was available for the 3. It was a 24-man trial. It's going to be beefed up a little bit and released onto the live servers, and it is going to drop item level 270 accessories. So if you're looking for a 270 accessory, look no further. You'll have the Proto Ultima battle to get you one step closer. There's going to be the new Feast map, and it says maps, but keep in mind, it's one new map, but it's different on 8-man and 4-man, similar to the way our current Feast map works. So it's not really like a bunch of new maps. They're going to be adding a sudden death mode. So we've had games that end in a draw, so I'm guessing there's going to be a sudden death window where next kill wins or something along those lines. There's also going to be new items and adjustments to PvP itself. And Season 3 ends on patch 3.55a, and Season 4 pre-season begins in at the same time. There's also going to be some additional updates. They're going to be buffing Sophia and Zervin mount drops. I spelled Zervin wrong, my bad. Garo gear is going to be re-obtainable from the Calamity Salvager, so that way it doesn't have to eat up all your inventory slots. And the Abes and High Summoner attire you got from purchasing either the digital ticket or being physically at the fan festivals, you will be available for redemption again on February 28th with patch 3.55. Let's see, exploratory. So you're probably wondering why 3.55a. So apparently they ran into a major bug with exploratory missions, and they couldn't fix it in time to release it on February 28th. It was apparently specifically with the raid that's inside the diadem. There was a big error there. So they're currently hoping to have it in the next 2 weeks or so, or 2 weeks after the patch drops. So by March 14th-ish was one of the days. It'll depend on how long it takes them to actually fix this bug. So that's what 3.55b will be. Also, they wanted to apologize for something else. When the Garo event was first announced, they said that it would be available with MGP in 3.55. This has been corrected lately, but he wanted to publicly apologize. It will not be available till 3.56 via MGP. So please look forward to it if you're not PvPing for the Garo gear. 3.56 will be when you can buy it with MGP. 3.56, for those who don't know, end of the 3.x main story. The diadem, diadem is 3.55b. I didn't mean to put that there. I started my notes the wrong way. And on top of that, they're going to be doing many more small patches between then and 4.0. So, and YoshiP says if you run out of stuff to do, then just make more animal weapons. Just make more animal weapons. That's it. Just make more animal weapons. That's all it is. So world records. So this is the end of the live letter, and apparently Final Fantasy XIV has set 3 world records. Now, interesting. Let's see what those are. The first one, the longest end credits in any MMO, which is mostly thanks to legacy players who supported 1.x. For those who don't know, legacy players have all of their names in the credits of A Realm Reborn, and that's thousands upon thousands of names. So it takes a very long time to get through the entire credit sequence of A Realm Reborn. Apparently it takes 1 hour and 38 minutes to get through the entire end credits of A Realm Reborn. So holy mother of Jesus, that is a lot of friggin' names. But YoshiP loves that because that's his favorite one to have obtained, because for him that's a reminder of how many people supported the relaunch of A Realm Reborn, because a lot of those legacy players were hardcore supporters, and now they have their names as part of a world record. We're part of a world record! Yay! 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 Okay, anyway. Oh yeah, the other thing at 3.56 would be the Garo stuff. Anyway, the second world record, most original pieces of music in any game. That they have a total of 384 original compositions. Soken accepted this, and by the way, there was a thing of him jumping up and down. I tweeted it. I hope somebody's made a GIF of it by now, because I want that GIF of Soken so bad. I want it so bad. So please make it happen. And then the third world record was Final Fantasy as a whole. The entire franchise has officially been recognized as the, quote, most prolific, unquote, role-playing video game series of all time, a total of 87 titles over the last 30 years. Now keep in mind the 30-year anniversary itself is not till November, December, around that vicinity, so we still have the rest of this year to really hit that 30-year mark, and those numbers are only going to go up because, I mean, we have new releases. We already know what they're working on. I don't know what their motto is on expansions and DLCs and how that all plays into it. But 87 Final Fantasy titles. But how can there be 87 Final Fantasy titles if there's only 15 Final Fantasies? Thinking emoji. Thinking emoji. For those of you who don't understand, that's what we on the internet call a meme, and therefore it is not to be taken too seriously. Anyway, that was the live letter from the European Fan Festival. Nothing too major, but just a few fun little questions, and Yoshi P was hilarious to watch on stage. But anyway, that's going to be a wrap. Thank you those of you watching on YouTube. I'm going to hang out with the Twitch chat for a few more minutes before I finish up on that end. But on YouTube, thank you for watching. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and stay tuned for all the latest Final Fantasy XIV news, information, guides, speculation, all that good stuff. I'll see you guys next time, and until then, take care.